Google is an icon in American culture. If a user needs to find information, their first response is to Google it, or to locate the information within the Google search engine. Google accounts for more than 60% of the search engine market share in the US, far outspacing its competitors. The success of Google in its home country and other international ventures led it to focus its expansionary sights on China. Due to China's large population and status as an emerging market, Google was poised to establish itself in one of the most enticing markets in the world. This did not come to fruition, however, due to censorship by the Chinese government, cultural differences, and its inability to differentiate itself from competition. The censorship of the internet for the population of China was nicknamed the Great Firewall. This censorship has resulted in many websites commonly used in the United States being banned in China. Prior to 2005, for a Chinese consumer to use Google, they would have to do so through illegal means, and as China already had a well-liked search engine named Baidu, risking capture by the police when there was an already useful and legal substitute led to lackluster initial response to Google by the Chinese. Google obtained its license to operate in China in 2005. However, the censorship required that key features of Google be excluded from the Chinese release. Features such as Gmail. Eventually, Chinese consumers associated Google with being glitchy, unresponsive, low-quality programming, which resulted in lack of use. Because of restrictions placed on Google by the Chinese government, the company was unable to differentiate itself from the search engine competition, particularly Baidu. At the time Google entered the market, Baidu controlled 76% of the search engine market share in China.
Abiding by censorship regulations while trying to expand into a new country obviously can be very difficult. However, Google could avoid dealing with China's censorship policies in the future if they created a separate control interface. This interface to Google search could be given to the Chinese government so that the government would be in charge of monitoring their restrictions of free access to information. This would allow Google to get out of the censorship business and focus more on their business. Every culture is different, and having a good cultural literacy while expanding internationally is very important. It appears as though Google entered the Chinese market with a sense of ethnocentricity, and perhaps if Google had done more research into understanding the desires of the Chinese consumers and the restrictions of the Chinese government, then they would have been more successful in their attempts to expand into China. Google entered the Chinese market and tried to give free access to everyone, just as they did in the United States. And they did not consider that everyone may not be the best target market for China. This, in conjunction with the restrictions that the Chinese government imposed on them, caused Google to have limited differentiation from their competitors. If Google had first done better research and found the best possible market to segment in China, they could have used that target market to show the value of Google. Additionally, Google could work closely with the Chinese government to come to an agreement which would allow them to demonstrate how they can differentiate themselves from Baidu through the use of its additional features such as Google Docs and Gmail. If the perceived value of Google continued to increase, then perhaps the Chinese government might see them as beneficial to their populace and reconsider their restrictions.
In conclusion, Google failed to establish itself in China due to Chinese government's intervention to their business for cultural and economic motives, as well as lack of understanding of cultural differences between its home country of America and China.